Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Trying to think of what I did today, but I just kind of relaxed. It was nice.
Sure.
So yeah, my new job's going well, and my dog's super cute. So I can't complain too much.
There you go. Hey, that sounds good to me.
Yeah. Oh, and I love Skylar. I mean, she's right, of course, her. Okay. Right. Yes.
Good. No. Is she in the room? Jeff, blink once for yes.
No. And we just it's I'll be in the room with both her and my dog, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I love you so much, and she'd be like, oh thanks. I was talking to the dog.
I do that to Lisa when she says either to me or to the dog or to nobody when she says I love you. I always feel the need to specify, do you mean me or the dog?
Right, yeah.
It's about 50-50 which one she's talking about.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, we tease each other about that, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you doing.
So 2 days ago I got my COVID booster shot. So I am
nice.
I'm a superhuman now.
Yeah, you've got all the G's.
Yep. I'm a paladin now, so I have immunity to disease and everything. So that's pretty cool. However, that came with a side effect, and that's for the last couple of days I've been a little bit feverish, I guess. I haven't actually taken my temperature, so I don't know if I have a fever, but I've had aches and pains and chills. Nothing severe, just kind of the expected side effects of getting a vaccine or getting a shot or whatever.
How did your first two shots go? Not
bad. I actually felt pretty darn good after I got the second one. I don't think I felt any particular sickness, but this time, the first day I was all right. And then the next day I woke up and I did not feel great. And then today I was still feeling a little icky. So I decided to, I took both today and yesterday off from work.
Yeah.
Because my work sucks. Everybody?
Yeah.
But because I was feeling sick enough to call out of work, but not sick. I wasn't throwing up all day or whatever. So I was able to get a lot of stuff done around the house. I'm pretty sure I mentioned in a previous week, I'm going to talk a little quiet just in case Lisa's listening at the door, which I don't think she is, but just in case. I finished that Simpsons TV thing that I made for her.
Oh yeah, nice.
It was a lot of work. It was a lot of frustration, but it's done.
You got it working?
It's working. The sound quality is not great, which is disappointing, but I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure that it's fine for what she's going to do. It's not like she's going to be sitting there and actually watching the thing. I'm pretty sure it's just going to sit on her desk and just, be playing in the background while she's doing other stuff. Mm-hmm. So for that purpose, I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah.
But, it was cool. I would be up for trying something like this again in the future, Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah. But like I said, it was a lot of work, but I'm so glad that it is now in the rear view mirror. So
no, I think that's a super cool gift.
Yeah. So that's that. And then one other thing I wanted to mention is that apparently some of our listeners are starting a play-by-post campaign on our Discord.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed the channel show up one day, and I was like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah. They were asking, they had been talking about it, possibly continuing the Patreon campaign that we started. I won't have anything to do with it, so it's not going to be for patrons. It's going to be for whoever is there, I guess.
Yeah.
But all of our past patrons were talking about they would love to continue that. So one of them suggested that they could run the game, and the others were going to bring back their characters and everything. And I think one or two of them were getting a little bit too gung ho on we should have this channel and this channel and this role and this role. And I'm like, whoa. Let's wait and see if it even happens first. So I made one channel. I'll probably make one or two more channels as need arises. But it's really cool. I'm so happy that our listeners are interested in using that platform to continue playing and continue having fun with this stuff that started as a result of the podcast. So
yeah, that's really cool.
So all the power to them. Good job, everybody.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and get into this episode, Jeff?
Sure. Let's do it.
Okay. So Jeff, I want you to imagine you've received some sad news.
Oh, okay.
your, let's say, grandmother is not doing well. She's lived a long and fruitful life, but unfortunately she is on her deathbed, and she wants to talk to you one last time.
Oh, okay.
So you drive to, she's in hospice or something. You go there and you talk to her, and you go, and she's got the nasal cannula. She's got like the little tube that goes into her nose and is giving her oxygen. I dropped that phrase in an episode of the Nowhere Man podcast, and Steve was like, how did you know what that is called? Anyway, so you go in there, and some of your other family members are around. There's some teary eyes around, but your grandmother, she beckons you over, and she says to you, "Oh, Jeffrey, is that you?"
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Now, Jeffrey, I wanted to tell you something. I know that you've never met your grandfather, obviously. He went off to fight in the war, and he was gone before you were born. But I just wanted you to know that he was so proud when he found out that you were born, and he wanted to leave something behind for you for when for when you grew up. He wanted to leave behind something that would eventually be yours. It's your birthright, Jeffrey. Now, after I'm gone, there is an old photo album in my house. I want you to go, and I want you to find that album. It's on top of the fridge. It's behind some of the cookbooks. I want you to open that up, and it has some of your grandfather's belongings in that pressed in that photo album. So please, Jeffrey, promise me that you will do this.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, Grandma.
Okay. And I'm not going to be as morbid as to say that she dies right there, but she says, okay, now, I would like to sleep. So she gives you a kiss, and then you go on your way. And so some time passes. She doesn't die immediately, but unfortunately, eventually she does. And so you're remembering, she did tell you, she said that after she passed, she wanted you to go and find that old album. And so you're over at her house, everybody's cleaning stuff out of her house to, breathe some new life into the building and everything. And sure enough, you find up on top of the fridge behind some of the cookbooks, you find this old photo album. And it's like bound in leather, and you open it up, and it says Grandma and Grandpa. For some reason, it says Grandma and Grandpa. I don't know why it says that, because surely they made this before they were grandparents. But anyway, you're flipping through, and you see, there's all these pictures of your grandma, and she looks just like you remember her from when you were young. She's got that bright smile, and there's her making some paprikash and so on. And then you start flipping through, and then you notice that in some of the pictures, she's with this other individual, this like really, really tall individual. Like, this guy is particularly large. His skin is like kind of reddish. And when you see his face, his eyes kind of look the same color of like molten red that your eyes are.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then you keep flipping through these pages, and you realize your grandfather was a dragon.
Oh.
And when you get to the back of the book, you find a gold coin has been like taped into the back of this book. And there's a map right above it that says, "To Jeffrey, this is the first of many." And then there's instructions on how to reach, presumably, where the rest of these gold coins are. And now you realize what your inheritance is, Jeff. Do you know what your inheritance is?
What is it, Gabe?
Because you are a dragon. Your inheritance is the dragon's hoard. Woo!
Oh man, what a rush.
Somebody on the Discord a while ago had the suggestion, like, Jeff has to eventually figure out that he's a dragon, right?
Yeah,
so here we are.
I got dragon blood in me. I'm dragonborn.
There you go. So anyway, so today's magic item was submitted by me. It was not submitted by a listener. This is a magic item that exists in the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. And this is they have it as singular, but I'm going to have it be plural. The Orbs of Dragonkind.
Oh, yeah.
This is these are artifacts that have existed in D&D for a very long time. I don't know if they came from Dragonlance, but they're a big... my understanding is that they are a big part of Dragonlance. Like, the world of Dragonlance is referenced in the description here.
Sure.
So, this is an artifact. It requires attunement. Ages past on the world of Kryn, elves and humans waged a terrible war against evil dragons. When the world seemed doomed, the wizards of the Towers of High Sorcery came together and worked their greatest magic, forging 5 orbs of dragonkind, or dragon orbs, to help them defeat the dragons. 1 orb was taken to each of the 5 towers, and there they were used to speed the war toward a victorious end. The wizards used the orbs to lure dragons to them, then destroyed the dragons with powerful magic. As the Towers of High Sorcery fell in later ages, the orbs were destroyed or faded into legend, and only 3 are thought to survive. Their magic has been warped and twisted over the centuries, so although their primary purpose of calling dragons still functions, they also allow some measure of control over dragons. Each orb contains the essence of an evil dragon, a presence that resents any attempt to coax magic from it. Those lacking in force of personality, which we talked about last week is charisma, might find themselves enslaved to an orb. An orb is an etched crystal globe about 10 inches in diameter. When used, it grows to about 20 inches in diameter, and mist swirls inside it. While attuned to an orb, you can use an action to peer into the orb's depths and speak its command word. You must then make a DC 15 charisma check. On a successful check, you control the orb for as long as you remain attuned to it. On a failed check, you become charmed by the orb for as long as you remain attuned to it. While you are charmed by the orb, you can't voluntarily end your attunement to it, and the orb casts suggestion on you at will, save DC 18, urging you to work toward the evil ends it desires. The dragon essence within the orb might want many things: the annihilation of a particular people, freedom from the orb, to spread suffering in the world, to advance the worship of Takesis, which is Tiamat's name on Kryn, or something else the DM decides. Also, because it's an artifact in 5th edition, it has like 2 minor beneficial properties, 1 minor detrimental property, and 1 major detrimental property. Go look up, that's in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Look up what that means. Then additionally, the orb has spells. The orb has 7 charges and regains 1d4 plus 3 expended charges daily at dawn. If you control the orb, you can use an action to expend 1 or more charges to cast one of the following spells, save DC 18, from the orb. Cure Wounds, which is a 5th level version, that's 3 charges. Daylight, 1 charge. Death Ward, 2 charges. Or Scrying, 3 charges. You can also use an action to cast the Detect Magic spell from the orb without using any charges. Cool. Additionally, has a Call Dragons ability. While you control the orb, you can use an action to cause the artifact to issue a telepathic call that extends in all directions for 40 miles. Evil dragons in range feel compelled to come to the orb as soon as possible by the most direct route. Dragon deities such as Tiamat are unaffected by this call. Dragons drawn to the orb might be hostile toward you for compelling them against their will, and once you have used this property, it can't be used again for 1 hour. And then, because this is an artifact, it has special rules on how it can be destroyed. An orb of dragonkind appears fragile, but is impervious to most damage, including the attacks and breath weapons of dragons. A disintegrate spell, or 1 good hit from a +3 magic weapon, is sufficient to destroy an orb, however. So there you go. There's a lot to take in there, most of which is, there's like a lot of lore and such attached to that. But yeah, they do a good job of not calling it a Dragon Ball, because it's not. It doesn't do the same thing as the Dragon Balls in Dragon Ball. But then again, if there were more dragons in the world, I don't know. Anyway, it's not a Dragon Ball. It's a dragon sphere or a dragon orb. And so if you are able to overcome it with a charisma check, you have a bunch of spells you can cast, and then you can telepathically draw dragons to you. So, they're not under your control, but let's say you're in the middle of a battlefield and you're losing.
Right.
Bring a dragon. What's the worst that can happen? You lose? You were going to lose anyway. Maybe the other people are going to lose. Maybe you'll both lose. But, dragons.
Dragons. Could be like the nearest dragon. Like, that there are stories of this particular dragon in the hills or whatever.
Sure.
And you might know that dragon has like a beef against your enemy, so you can call him in and be like, you can call him in and then hide, and then when the dragon shows up and sees, sees his rival or whatever.
Sure.
I don't know. Like there could be some fun stuff. Like, I mean, like summoning a dragon, like that's, or it could be like, it could end up being, because does it only compel one dragon? It's just whatever's the closest.
Evil dragons in range.
Evil dragons in range.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So all of them that are within 40 miles.
So all dragons within 40 miles would be compelled?
Yeah.
Like,
just not dragon deities. Oh, thank goodness.
Right.
We're fine if there aren't dragon deities, but all those other dragons,
called dragons. Yeah, okay. Yeah, like so all dragons within 40 miles. And I mean, I assume dragons, for the most part, aren't going to be like, their like territory is going to be pretty big,
Sure.
So you're probably not going to find like a bunch of dragons within 40 miles.
Sure. And they won't necessarily be hostile towards you. They might be, it says, because you did just compel them to do something against their will. But like, you could make a deal with them.
Right.
If they arrive and they have a bigger enemy that is, the frost giants, or you're fighting the frost giants, well, maybe they'll deal with you later. They're going to go after the frost giants first.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, these, like the whole thing with these orbs, like, I'm wondering if like dragons would want to have them. Because I mean, like, dragons are, they're highly intelligent, powerful creatures. Like, they're not just monsters. They're, they have their own plans.
Sure.
So I don't know, like, if they'd want to have these on hand. Yeah, would that be interesting if they can use it to like lure in like other dragons?
Only evil dragons are affected, so good dragons could use them.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're magical orbs that summon dragons. And then I don't know, do the dragons like grant you wishes or anything? Or
I mean, no.
Okay.
But who knows?
I don't even.
Maybe you summon the one that does.
Yeah, the one that knows the wish spell. Yeah, sure.
There's a half dragon djinn that's out there.
There you go. Right, yeah, evil dragon. So, like, how much of a dragon does it have to be,
Would it affect Dragonborn?
Right. Would it affect Dragonborn, half dragons, that kind of, or like, non-true dragons?
Well, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons is out, and I do have a copy.
Oh.
So this could affect a lot of other things now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this magic item, this artifact, I've always kind of liked just what it is thematically. Like, it's these orbs that let you, to an extent, control dragons, and understandably, dragons probably hate them. I think it's interesting that they note that it is immune to the attacks of dragons and the breath weapons of dragons.
So yeah, the dragons can't destroy them.
Right. I just think it's really cool. I think that it would be a great thing to build a campaign around. If this is indeed from Dragonlance, kind of makes me want to go back and read Dragonlance. I've read a couple Dragonlance books, but none of them involved the orbs of dragonkind. So
sure, yeah.
Maybe I just didn't get that far. I don't know. So yeah, I think this is a cool item, but I don't really have much else to say. Do you have anything else to say about it?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that was, once again, the Orbs of Dragonkind, submitted by me on the show. So, Jeff, if anyone wanted to submit items to the Dragon's Hoard, questions for our main segment, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, there isn't any more time to do so. They can still submit them. We will get them and we will read them.
Yes.
However, they will not have time to make it onto the show. But how would they do so?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And I will say once again, there is time if you do want to submit something for our after party episode, you can still do that. In fact, I will say that our social media question at the end of this episode, our next social media question, is going to be something that is specifically for that. It's not going to be something for the, it's not going to be like tabletop gaming related. And I'm going to later encourage anybody who does respond to that to submit it as audio instead. Record your voice, send in your response to the social media question for this week, and send it to us through email or any of the other platforms that Jeff mentioned, and get your voice on the show. This is the last opportunity to do so. I've always been a huge fan of listeners having input on what goes on to the show. So this is the last opportunity to do so. So do it. Anyway, be sure to check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy. Justin, Ian, and Brandon have been making new and reusable content for players and DMs alike for years and years. They're going to continue doing so after our show has ended. They're great guys. They do great stuff. You may be hearing more of one of them in an upcoming episode. But anyway, great stuff. CritAcademy.com. Check them out. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast that's going strong. And then check out D&D Character Lab and the Kind GM podcast, who, as far as I know, have stopped making episodes. But you can still go back and listen to everything that's there. And it's some great stuff. Enough of all the admin. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
All right, our first question comes from Cethia on Paizo, and they ask, what are some types of problem players you may encounter in a game, and how should you deal with them?
Yeah, so we've had this question on the list for a very, very long time. We covered in episode 7, we covered the question, how to deal with a problem player. And then we got this question like right after that. And so I thought, surely we'll come back to this question eventually. So I'll just leave this one on the list. Hence why it's from Paizo. I stopped taking questions from Paizo, 5 years ago almost.
Yeah.
So, So the question was, what are some types of problem players? So I've over the years, because again, we've had this question on the list for a very long time. Over the years, I've had try to think of like different takes we can do on this question. What I eventually decided to do was I basically just posted on Reddit like, hey, what are some types of problem players that you guys have encountered? And then I got a whole bunch of responses. I'll put a link in the show notes to like the full discussion if anybody wants to read it. But I got a whole lot of responses. I've kind of gone through and like, a lot of them were the same thing. A lot of them were different names for the same thing. I've kind of compiled them into what I think are 20 different enough types of problem players. There's going to be some overlap. There's going to be some of these might even not be problems when we really get down to it. But
sure,
we'll kind of just go down the list. We'll mention what these are and then how we think you should deal with them, if you should deal with them,
Hey, and because there's 20 of them, you can roll a die and see which one.
There you go. If you encounter a player, first off, just assume they're a problem player. Roll a d20. That's the one that they are. Treat them like that.
Yeah.
No, don't do that. It's terrible. Okay. Jeff, do you want to start us off with number 1?
Sure. We got number 1, All About Me.
Yes. And then there were some other examples people gave for what they would call it, and that's the Drama Llama. I'm the main character, and role play hog.
Sure, somebody who hogs the spotlight.
Yes, hogs the spotlight. Somebody who, tries to make the whole campaign about their character. I would say this is one of those ones that, depending on the context, may or may not be a problem. Most of the time, it's probably going to be a problem. But I think I've said before, I would rather have an entire table of attention hogs than an entire table of players that don't engage.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yes, the person who sends the DM like a 30-page backstory on their character. Yes, that's annoying. No, I'm not going to read that 30 pages, but I gotta love that enthusiasm.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna hate on that. But at the same time, right? I was like, I don't got time to read all this, but I like where your head's at. Yeah.
So this could be the player who, whenever anything happens, they're like, "Oh, I was there. Yeah, I'm there. I'm there too." Or when like there's a magic item, they're like, "Oh, I want that magic item. That magic item is perfect for me, whether it is or not."
Right. Yeah.
What are some things that you can do to deal with a player that is kind of trying to assert themselves more than any of the other players to the point where they are hogging the spotlight?
Like at the table, I feel like it can be kind of difficult, but you really got to like try and like engage the other players more directly.
Yeah.
To kind of try and get them more involved. And then if the problem player still like keeps like inserting themselves, even when you're clearly trying to engage with the other players more directly, like then it's becoming a problem that you might need to address outside of the game, the game table.
Sure.
Give them a talking to, or let's just communicate with them.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the answers for this is like communication.
Yes.
But
the simple answer for every one of these is going to be talk to the player.
To the player.
End of episode. All right. To submit questions for us. Anyway. So yeah, talking to the player should be like the second or third thing that you go to. First thing, like you said, Jeff, is just make sure to make a concerted effort to give attention to the other players. If the drama llama pokes their head in and is like, oh, well, I wanted to do this thing, be like, hold on a second, I'll get to you in a minute. And then, point at the player that you were trying to talk to, ask them what they do, deal with them first, and then go to the role play hog or whatever. So try to make it clear which character you are addressing, which character is involved, and then keep to that. If the other player was not, if their character was not present, tell them your character's in the other room. We'll get to you in a minute, and then go from there.
Yeah.
The worst part about this is just that it is taking your attention from other players. So the best thing you can do is just to make sure that you continue to give attention to the other players as much as you can.
Yeah.
So I think that's enough for the first one. We may come back to some of these as we continue on. Number 2 is the appropriately titled Edgelord McGloomypants. I've definitely been at a table where all of the players are trying to out-mysterious each other. Like, they're all trying to be the loner that is off in the corner with their hood pulled over their head, standing in shadow, trying to be the badass.
Yeah, they're all trying to be Strider.
Yes, exactly.
And it's like, we've all been there. We've all been there. It's fine.
It's fine. But there is always, I would say there is definitely an acceptable amount of time for this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, if it continues to be done without any self-awareness, it can become a problem.
Yeah.
But it really also eventually, like, if the rest of the group, as long as the rest of the group is still having a good time, it doesn't matter. You can just hand wave a reason why this group of loners would work together, as long as everybody's okay with just glossing over, like, why would we go along with this person? You just do, because he's another player at the table. That's why you're going along with this person. If you can just get past that, it'll probably smooth itself out pretty easily. That being said, it can be difficult when my character is, my character's a lone wolf. My character doesn't go along with people like this.
Right. It's just like
a potential response to that could be, okay, make a character who would.
Well,
make a character who is a team player, who is not a loner.
Yeah, my character, he goes and gets a table all by himself at the tavern and sits in the dark and smokes a pipe and
And the duty of dealing with a problem player, I was about to say it shouldn't necessarily be on the shoulders of the players. I will actually amend that to say it shouldn't be on any one person's shoulders, whether it's the players or the DM. It shouldn't be just up to the DM to wrangle everybody and get everybody to play the game. But if you're a player in the group and you notice that there is someone who is like just playing the edgelord, play along with it. Be the absolute polar opposite. Be the big friendly guy that just puts your arm around them and is like, hey, let's go on an adventure together. What's that?
Right.
You're a lone wolf. Sorry, I can't hear you over the howling. Let's go on this adventure, Mr. Lone Wolf.
Right. Yeah, you wanna to encourage character development among the other characters.
Yeah.
You know, like because that could be fun.
Yeah.
Like, because like, you know, like I feel like if the player wants to just always be the edgelord, I think that's when it, you know, it dips into actual player, you know, problem player territory.
Yeah.
But if that's just how they want to, like, that's just what the concept that came up with the character, but then it's going to evolve from there. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you're another player and you know, yeah, like just try to have fun with it. Be like, you know, like there is always that like sort of like plucky, annoying character that kind of gets under the skin of the lone wolf character,
Right.
but then eventually they, you know, gain a respect for each other, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
A good example of that. I don't know why this came to mind, but it's in Star Trek Voyager.
Okay.
You watched Star Trek Voyager,
Yes,
right?
I did. Yeah.
The Tuvok, who is a Vulcan.
Yeah.
And
Mr. Vulcan.
Mr.
According
Vulcan.
to Neelix, who I think you're about to mention.
Yeah, and then there's Neelix, who is like he's a
Talaxian.
Talaxian, yeah. So someone they meet in the Delta Quadrant, who is like, yeah, he's very like bubbly and, you know,
He eventually becomes the morale officer.
right, yeah. So and like, you know, they're very polar opposites, but Neelix always wants to, you know, be friends with Tuvok, and Tuvok is a Vulcan and is like, it's not what I'm about, man.
Yeah. And they are purposely paired up very often in the story because it creates amusing tension. It creates entertaining tension in, you know, just amongst the characters.
And there's a particular episode where they're paired up
On a cellular sense.
right. Yes. So, which is a very I guess controversial episode.
It poses a very interesting moral quandary. This episode can be as long as we want. The premise of that episode is that these two polar opposite characters get teleporter accidented together into one person, into a new third person.
Yeah, one of them is Jeff Goldblum and the other one's The Fly.
I guess, yeah. And so some of the crew wants their two original team members back. Some of them don't, but most importantly, he himself, Tuvix, he does not want to be separated back into two people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And spoilers, because the show has to get back to the status quo, at the end of the episode, he is forced to undergo the process to become two people again.
Yeah.
Therefore, it raises the question of, was that a moral act to essentially kill someone in order to benefit two people? When, you know, that one person doesn't want to be killed, doesn't consent to the sacrifice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's you know, killing one person to save two, but then it was also like the added thing of like the ship needs needs those two people to fill their roles.
True. That's a good point.
Whereas like the combined person, I guess, couldn't fill both roles.
Sure.
But anyway. So,
but yeah, Edgelord McGloomy Pants.
Yeah, Edgelord McGloomy Pants needs a bubbly like bard character to kind of balance him out.
Yeah, I think that it would have to be pretty severe for it to like really fall into problem player territory. I think that it can be you can get along with it. You can deal with a player like this by just, you know, incorporating them, just straight faced incorporate them into the story. Like, yeah, you're Edgelord McGloomy Pants, but the bakery needs to be saved by some adventurers. So that's what you're going to do.
All right, the next one is Murder Hobo.
Yes. So
somebody who is only interested in killing and causing mayhem without any regard for the story or characters.
Yeah, I'm sure we've you've all heard that term before, probably.
Yeah,
I'm sure we've used the phrase on the podcast before. It's really, it's a player that like they aren't really concerned about like the story or what would make sense for characters to do. They just, I'm just gonna go steal from this guard. Oh, the guard's attacking me. All right, I'm gonna kill the guard. And then there's treasure. Oh, I'm gonna kill my teammates in order to get more of the treasure, and so on and so on. I really feel, I mean, because all the time I hear people complaining about murder hobos in their group, and I've dealt with a murder hobo or two. Sometimes they are self-aware, sometimes, most of the time not. But I feel like murder hobos are going to be much less of a problem if your world has consequences. If the players walk up and kill someone, if a player walks up and kills an NPC on the street, if they are then able to just, run away from the guards and then just go on their merry way, they're going to do it again. You haven't done anything to discourage that type of behavior. If, however, they kill an NPC and then the guards show up and then now their character is put in prison and possibly has to like go through a lengthy trial process or something, that can be its own deterrent. I'm usually the kind of person that says you shouldn't deal with out of game problems in game. So I don't necessarily think that all problem players should be dealt with by having someone in the game world react to it, because that can cause its own problem. Like then you're just feeding into their, whatever their problem is by giving them more and more time at the table to continue being whatever. But in the case of a murder hobo, usually the situations presented are something that it's like they wouldn't keep doing that if there were consequences. In real life, I can't just walk down the street and kill someone. If I do, I will get put in jail. I will probably, I might end up getting killed myself by, whoever. So that's my incentive to not do that. If that same incentive exists in the game world, if the players know if we kill the quest giver, we're not going to get money. There isn't going to be some other quest giver that comes up and is like, oh, well, here's your reward anyway. Then not getting the reward is going to incentivize them to not kill the quest giver next time. If it also causes the entire town guard to show up and now that character is dead, and then next time they make a character that's a murder hobo, then that character gets killed for doing something stupid again, that can be a deterrent. Again, don't spend so much time at the table dealing with this. If it is a repeating problem, you might want to just sit down and talk to them and be like, what do you want out of this game?
Yeah.
But this is also the kind of problem that we've talked about in the past where it is less of a problem when all the players are doing it. It actually might not be a problem at all. If the DM doesn't want to run that type of a game, that's one thing. But if the players are only there for, we want to fight stuff, we want to kill stuff, we want to destroy stuff, if everybody's okay with playing that type of game, there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem though is when either the DM doesn't want to run that type of game or the other players are trying to take the story seriously. They're trying to take their characters seriously. And then they've got this guy who, as soon as a town guard walks into the room, they roll initiative and attack them.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so it is probably a problem for most people. If there are consequences, it will probably be less of a problem. And then if everyone wants to do it, it's not a problem.
Right, yeah. So everybody's into it. They're just like, all right, that's what I'm here for. I mean, the way that we're playing our Pathfinder game, like, not necessarily murder hobos, but like it's
a dungeon crawl.
Yeah, it's a dungeon crawl adventure, so it's less, it's a little bit more on the murder hobo side of things.
Sure.
But that's not a problem because that's kind of why we're all happy to be. We're just happy to be playing together.
Yeah, and when we do encounter an NPC, like we deal with that NPC like our characters would deal with that NPC. We don't just see an NPC and then kill them.
Right.
It's like, well, who is this NPC? What do we know about them? What we talk to them for a bit usually, and then oh no, this is a ghoul that is intent on destroying the city. Let's just kill them.
Well, yeah, we talked our way out of a fight with a devil. Like it's we're not
because I pulled out. I might cut this part out because this episode is going to be very long. But there was a point where we encountered a ghost of this character, of this woman, and I kind of jokingly was like, hey, I'm going to try to draw a picture of that ghost that we saw. And I rolled a natural 20 on my whatever the check was to draw this picture. So we decided this is like a perfect representation of what this woman looked like. And then we're walking through the dungeon that this woman was like in charge of or was related to or something. And so we encounter this devil, and I was like, we're actually here. I don't remember what exactly I said. I was like, we're here to draw her portrait. See, look, here's a portrait that I drew. And I got a natural 20 again on my check to like be like, no, see here, I have the picture. I'm doing a very good job of convincing you that this is related to why we're here. So don't attack us. We're just going to go this way now. Thanks a lot. And yeah, every time I've had any sort of a check involved with this picture, I've rolled very, very high.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the next one we have the metagamer. And then I've combined this one with a different one, which is the cheater. Those can be two different things. However, I find that in a lot of cases, the same behavior is kind of in common between the two. So I guess let's deal with metagamer first. So metagamer is someone who uses out-of-game knowledge in-game. They use knowledge that their character couldn't have had or didn't have. And they're using it, the player is using that knowledge to gain an advantage. So let's say one of the players has a scene with the bad guy by themselves, and like that player finds out the identity of the bad guy, but did not have an opportunity to relay this information to the rest of the party. And then one of the other party members, because the player knows the twist, the player decides that their character is going to act on the knowledge that this is the bad guy, even though their character wouldn't know it. Another one is if the player has read the adventure, which is a thing that I'm sure some DMs have encountered. The player has read the adventure, and so they have their character use attacks against monsters that they're weak against without knowing that, without any way they could have known that. Maybe they check a wall for a secret door because the player knows that there's a secret door there, not that the character had any reason to do so. Mm-hmm. Those kinds of behaviors can be a problem. Similarly, a player that cheats either by doing the things I just mentioned, or by not recording when they lose hit points, or by rolling their die and then picking it up before anybody else can see it and then lying about the number. These types of players can be very, very frustrating because as a player, when I'm a player, if I feel like one of the other players is cheating, it takes my fun out of the game because I know that like I'm doing this because I have a chance of failure and that's what makes it fun. But when they don't have a chance of failure, and by extension, the party has less of a chance of failure because this player isn't following the rules, then that makes my enjoyment less because now I feel like there isn't a sense of danger. And it's no longer about, can we overcome this obstacle? It's, okay, well now the cheater is just going to cheat. And yeah, we're going to succeed because the cheater is cheating,
Right.
So that takes the fun out of it for me. Metagaming similarly. Sometimes you're going to metagame. It's just going to happen. You're going to do it unintentionally. Some metagaming is not really a problem. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but especially in the situation of like they've read the adventure and they know the secrets and stuff, it can make it a lot less fun because it's like, that's not what we're not playing the game where this player knows all of the answers to the test. We're trying to find the answers ourselves. We're trying to overcome the obstacles ourselves. So someone else just getting right through that through unfair means sucks.
Yeah. Right.
So,
sometimes that's not, that's not done on purpose or something. It's,
sure.
The player didn't like go out of their way to read it. It's like they just happened to have read it before because they were going to run it, but then they decided not to. And then a different DM was like, hey, let's do this. I'm running this adventure. Yeah. And so sometimes you might know what the adventure is, or at least some parts of it you might remember or something like that. But
sure.
you do your best not to metagame, but it's not always possible.
Yeah. When in doubt, ask if you can make a history check or a nature check or intelligence check or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But let's say you're a DM and you notice that one of your players is metagaming or cheating. I personally find this is hard to do, but the best option is to call it out immediately and then move on. Don't make a big thing out of it. Don't the whole group should not conspire behind the other player's back to be like, oh, we're going to trap him and, to prove that he's cheating or whatever. No, just when it happens, be like, hey, you're cheating, cut it out, and then just move on. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just make it clear that that's not acceptable. if need be, in the case of like rolling dice or whatever, or a player not keeping track of their whatever's, their stats, you can use electronic methods to roll dice to keep track of everybody's stats. You can use a dice tower. I personally don't really like. I prefer not to do those unless it's necessary. I think that it's better to just stamp out the problem. Just say, cut it out. We're aware that you're doing this. Don't do it. And then if it continues, then move on to more drastic measures. But
sure.
Generally speaking, I think that just immediately saying something about it will stop it at least for a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's hard to do. I totally understand that's hard to do, but you got to do it.
The next one is the DM who can't stop trying to DM when they're actually the player.
Yeah. I take great measures to not do this myself. When I'm a player, I take measures to be as helpful to the DM as possible. I don't try to second guess things that the DM is doing. I don't try to tell other players what they should do. I don't try to tell the DM what they should do. I might once in a while be like, here's one way you could do that. Like if the DM is obviously having difficulty doing something, I might offer a suggestion for how they could do it. But generally speaking, when like I try really hard not to do that because I know that would be annoying. It's backseat driving with backseat DMing.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't really know what else to do. Like I'm sure it's not something they're doing intentionally. Maybe if you're the DM, just be like, look, I'm the DM. I know what I'm doing. Cut it out.
Right. Yeah.
I guess.
Just be like, appreciate the help, but I got this kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Number 6 is the general. And I'm actually getting this term from a group I used to play with. That's what they called it. And that's when one player tells other players what to do in combat. So like you're in combat and, you're about to take your turn and then you tell one of the other players, okay, after I hit this guy, you should shoot him with your crossbow. In some groups, this is fine. In some groups, like I feel like I'm always open to other players giving me their suggestions on what I should do. That being said, I'm sure I've been annoyed by it too. So in some groups, it's fine. But generally speaking, let other players play their characters,
Yeah.
If you're a DM, you can just tell them like, hey, let them play their character. Or, you're not the general. Stop acting like the general, I think is what my previous group used to call it. So again, this is one of those things that just like when it happens, just point it out and then move on.
Right. Yeah. And these sort of call outs, like I would always say never try to make a huge deal out of it because it might then cause resentment and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But.
You definitely don't want to gang up on a player for any of these.
Yeah. Because they might not be doing it intentionally. They might not realize they're doing it. You don't want somebody to feel embarrassed about it and to the point where they're going to like leave the game or something like that. Because if it's not like that much of a problem, you don't want to make it a worse problem.
Yeah. And this is one of the ones that I feel like is in games that I run, I hope nobody has a problem with it. Because like I feel all of us should be as open with strategy as possible. I rarely have the best strategy in mind. So like I said, if somebody offers me a suggestion, I'll listen to it. I might not do it, but I like when the players are working together because as the DM, the monsters are all working together. Maybe not 100%, maybe not like hardcore strategizing, but I have one mind and that one mind is choosing all of these different actions. So I see no reason why the players shouldn't also be able to discuss strategy as it's going on.
Sure. Yeah.
Some DMs might feel differently, but like, I don't care. Play the game.
Yeah.
If the players aren't, if the game's fun or if the game's tension comes from the players not being allowed to play to the fullest, that's a bad source of tension in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah. The next one is, hold on. I'm on my phone. Give me a second.
Jeff.
No, it's fine. Hold on. I'll take my turn and just give me a second. I gotta reply to this text.
Yes, aka the absent-minded player.
Right.
So just a player that's on their phone the whole session, or just someone that's just not paying attention. Maybe they're doing something else. They're whatever. They're just not paying attention. Everything has to be like recapped for them because they didn't know what happened last round. They don't know what the person did right before them. I'm sure we all fall into this from time to time. But this is talking about like chronic issues with this. I try to do as much as I can to mitigate this when that's me. There was one game that I was in where I brought my laptop with me because at the time I was like, oh, laptops are getting to be popular in tabletop gaming. This is the easiest way to keep my character sheet in order. And I began to realize I'm not paying attention at all. I am literally on Facebook right now. And so I had to tell myself I'm not doing that anymore. So like I went back to paper sheets.
Right.
As a DM or even as a player, you can suggest a rule where just no phones at the table, or like everybody, you can't have your phone out. If you get a call or something, whatever, fine. Emergencies happen, but just like a rule, no phones out at the table. Everybody, has to at least marginally be paying attention. And,
right. Yeah.
Try to be understanding. Some players might just have an attention issue. That's fine. Mm-hmm. If it becomes a chronic thing, if it's always a problem, talk to them out of the game. Be like, hey, I noticed that, you're on your phone a lot, or you're often not really paying attention. Is there anything that we can change about the game that might make it more engaging, or, maybe leave it open-ended so they can explain, so they can fill in the gaps. So try to just talk to them, be understanding. I feel like this is one of the lesser, it's a problem, but it's less of a problem than, say, metagaming or cheating or, some of the other ones that we'll get to maybe in a moment.
Right. Yeah. Because this one could just take a little nudge, like, hey, pay attention.
Yeah.
Just that. Yeah. It's less likely to be a huge issue.
Yeah. So the next one is horny creeper. AKA I don't understand boundaries, or horny couple. If it's two players.
Sure.
So I have been blessed to not have really had to deal with this problem much.
Okay.
I can't think of any. I feel like it's probably happened once, but I can't think of a specific example. But if you go to like on Reddit r/RPG horror stories, which I think is actually where I posted this this discussion asking for examples. That's like 90% of the stories on there is someone, usually a young girl, goes to join a group, and there's just that one, not to stereotype, but it is in most of these stories, it is that one guy who just can't stop being a sleazebag at the table.
Right.
This sort of thing, this is probably one of the worst problems on this list. If it's not the worst, it's up there. And addressing it, like I said, with the addressing like the cheating or whatever, immediately addressing this and then moving on, it's a good thing to try. But I feel like if this is a problem, that it's probably not going to be stopped by that.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably going to merit talking to the player outside of the game. And if it continues, this is one of the things I would say you are most justified in just booting that character, that player out of the group for. Because this is like, it's overstepping this kind of a boundary is a huge deal. D&D should be a thing that everybody feels comfortable doing. Here's the thing. When you're playing D&D, that is like the nerdiest thing you can do. One of the nerdiest things we can do. I think we talked about, I think I came on the side of LARPing being nerdier in a far previous episode. But
right, yeah.
Anything that makes someone uncomfortable to play D&D, a game where you need to be as comfortable as possible. Anything that makes a player uncomfortable is, in my opinion, anathema to the game.
Right.
And you should cut that out however necessary.
Right. And I mean, like and this just falls into like problem person.
Sure.
Where it goes outside the boundaries of the game itself into like, these are people's lives and like their personal comfort and stuff like that. You have to keep that in mind. Like if like, because like the worst version of this problem, the person on the bad end of it, they don't feel safe. Like as a human being, they do not feel safe. If they're being creeped on like that bad, they might feel unsafe. Like if they're playing this at like a game store or something like that, they might not feel safe to walk to their car. True, like that, like that. You never want anybody, in that situation. Even people you don't even like, you don't want them in that situation. Yeah. So like, this is something that needs to be addressed, like, as soon as possible. And like you said, if it's not something that can be fixed easily, it is something you have to just be like, well, you got to leave.
Yeah. I would say this is like a 3 strikes thing. First strike, address it immediately and move on. Second time it happens, talk to them outside of the game. Third time, kick them out of the group. Like I feel that's strong, but
right,
probably necessary.
This is one of the ones that where it's like, you definitely need to keep that as an option to deal with it because,
if there's ever a time to kick a player out of the group, this is it.
Yeah. Like, it's, and not everybody means to be as, a horny creeper. Sometimes it just kind of ekes out because, we're all human. We get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's something to take seriously.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. This one is, rules lawyer.
Yeah.
And, I've definitely fallen into this one before.
As have I, which is why our second episode was all about why being a rules lawyer is not that bad.
Right. We were trying to defend ourselves.
Right. Because the little subsection on this is that somebody also called it the person that argues about everything.
Sure.
You shouldn't ever just penalize someone for learning the rules and expecting to follow those rules. That being said, there's a time and a place. If a player does bring up the rules issues that they have at the table, that can be a problem, especially if they keep doing it. If they complain about everything, then they just might be interested in a different type of game than the DM is looking to run. So the best thing, I think, is to try and work with that player. Try to find a way to harness their power. Don't just discard them, but find out how to use their powers for good. When you don't remember a rule, ask them what the rule is. Maybe you had an idea of how you were going to rule it. Maybe you can say, I'm going to do it this way for this time, but if you can look up what the rule is for next time, we'll deal with it next time. That's the way that you should, when someone does object to how the DM is doing the rules. Even if you're a player, you can say, let's do it the way that the DM said for this time, and then next time we'll worry about getting it more accurate next time. I feel like most people would have no issue with that.
Sure,
maybe I have too much faith in humanity. I don't know. But I think that's a very reasonable way to do it. Again, even if you are a player, just chime in, be like, let's just do it this way. Do the way the DM said. We'll worry about that later.
Yeah.
Number 10 is the Meme Lord. And this is a player.
Like turtles.
This is the player that turns everything. What was that?
Nani?
Okay. This is the player that turns everything into a joke or a meme.
My name is Jeff.
I'm sorry, last one.
You feel free. I can always cut it out in editing if necessary. So this is the kind of thing, kind of like with number 1 of the All About Me, the Drama Llama, Roleplay Hog, whatever. I feel like this is a person that they have enthusiasm. Their enthusiasm is just a little bit misplaced. So
sure.
This is, when you're trying to do a serious scene, a serious encounter, a serious game, and you've just got that one player that just keeps cracking jokes. That can be a problem, but, I would say this one, maybe let it, unless it keeps happening in the same session, let it slide until the end of the session, and then mention to them, next time, try to cut back on the jokes and the memes and stuff. Because, hey, I love me a good meme. Don't cut out the memes entirely, I would tell that player. But,
right.
Try to read the room. Recognize when people are receptive to memes and not receptive to memes, and bring up the memes when they are. So, hey, the meme lord definitely has a place in a particular game. Just you got to find that particular game.
Right. Yeah. We also have the zero risk gamer, which is somebody who only takes an action if they can be sure there is no risk to them.
Yeah.
So somebody who plays every action ultra safe.
Kind of, yeah. So there are in our gaming group of 4 people, Jeff.
Yeah.
There are 2 people. I will say neither of them are present at this recording. There are two people who in the past, I'm sure they have come leaps and bounds from this, but in the past, they have fallen victim to being this type of gamer in the past. Sure. I'm sure I've talked before about Jay when playing in the Age of Worms campaign, where he spent like... the amount of time I've said is probably inflated every time I said it. Let's say he took 2 hours to describe how he was... Not actually 2 hours, like 5 minutes. He took too long to describe how he was going to rig up a pulley system on the end of a pole so that he could pull on what he thought was a lever, but it wasn't a lever. Just because, understandably, he didn't want his character to get crushed by like a boulder or something.
Right, yeah.
Also, kind of a similar thing, our friend Steve, in our very first campaign that I ever ran for him, if he didn't have a good action to take in combat, he would just take no action. He would make a quote unquote tea and cakes check.
Sure.
Because he didn't want to use resources if there wasn't a definite payout for those resources.
Right.
I understand both of these approaches 100%. However, they are frustrating as a DM.
Sure. I feel like I can sometimes do this too when I'm like trying to think of like the right move to make when it's my turn. I'm like, what, like what's the best way to do what I want to do, or you know, like what's the best way to use my resources. And like I could definitely see these things as like a kind of a neat like character quirk for the character, you know, like the tea and cakes to check thing, like I could see that being like a quirk of the character themselves, where like, you know, like they're the wizard who like they're very stingy about their spell slots, and like there's like, are you really worth a level 2 slot? I don't know, and like that could be like, but they could say that out loud, you know, they could actually be saying that, you know, as a character out loud, and it's sort of like they're like insulting the enemy. They're like, ooh, I could cast Fireball on you, but are you really worth a 3rd level slot?
Sure,
I don't know, you know. So like that could be like their signature cantrip is Vicious Mockery, but they're basically just saying like, you're only worth a cantrip. Like
that's a pretty vicious mock right there.
Right, yeah. It's like I have 2 3rd level slots, but I'm just gonna use a cantrip on you, bud. Sorry.
Yeah. So I've been this in the past. I feel like in the game that Jay is currently running, there have been plenty of times where Jay's probably been like pulling his hair out on his side of the microphone, because we've been like hemming and hawing over what to do. There's a small spoilers for Abomination Vaults. There's an encounter. I'll try as best as I can not to actually spoil what is happening. There's an encounter relatively early in this adventure where we like poked our head through a door, and there were a couple, like, they weren't goblins, but I'll just call them goblins. There were a couple goblins, and then some sort of a bigger foe. And the bigger foe looked really scary. And I think we killed the goblins or something. So for whatever reason, the goblins we were able to neutralize the goblins. And then we probably spent like half an hour, maybe not really half an hour.
I don't think it was a half an hour.
We spent quite a while trying to decide what we should do, because we were afraid of, we run out there and then the bigger monster kills us or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, so I finally did it, because my solution to this is, when you notice you're doing it, do something risky. Charge in. Do whatever you have to do to not be cautious. Play the game. Do something that's going to put you in danger. It might get you killed. Hopefully not, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be more fun than sitting there and talking about what to do about this monster on the other side of the door. Because in our case, I charged this monster, and it wasn't a monster at all. It was a statue. It was like a skeleton somebody had propped up or something.
Yeah, it was like a scarecrow. Yeah,
it was a scarecrow. And so, like, maybe Jay was enjoying it. I'm sure if I were the DM, like, part of me would probably be enjoying it, but then part of me would be like, guys, it's not a monster. Just do something.
Well, but no, I think, because I think in that case, like, that's the intention, right? It's a scarecrow. Like, that was the whole intention of it. And the fact that we fell for it, I feel like that's a good moment, you know, that made for a funny entertainment moment. Like, we all had a laugh out of it.
Sure.
like I think that was a win for the whole group. But like I can see where that could, like, if that went on for a bit longer,
Yeah.
definitely would have been like, okay, guys, like
Sure. So yeah, the amount of time, which I don't recall exactly how long it was. The amount of time
it wasn't
really
that long. It wasn't that long. I remember it. It wasn't terribly long or anything like that.
Well, that is the deciding factor in whether this is a problem or not.
Yeah, just how long this is taking for somebody to make the no risk move.
Sure. And like, I'm sure that we've all had games where the players spend forever trying to decide who's going to open the door, how do we open this door, and then they're just whatever talking forever. That might not be a problem, because if the players are still engaged in the game, let them take however long. If you only get through half of your stuff you had planned this session, there's less planning you have to do next time, because the players were still having fun debating what their characters are going to do. And that, for a certain type of game, that's what the game is about. So don't necessarily write this sort of thing off as a problem.
Right.
The next one is the complainer, and also called, also known as the victim. This is someone who complains whenever something doesn't go their way, whenever an enemy attacks them, whenever they roll poorly or whatever. They they take it personally. The dice gods have cursed them. The DM has it out for them, so on and so on.
I will say I'm one of these. I've just done my best to keep it to myself.
Okay.
and that is probably the advice I'd least put to those who might be one of these problem players. Is like,
internalize it, bottle it up.
Not to bottle
someday
it up.
You'll explode. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, I mean, it's just like, it's not, you're not adding to anybody's fun by complaining about it. It's like, yeah, it sucks that you keep rolling really poorly on just like, because one of my main complaints is always like, I built this character to be good at one thing, and there I go rolling 3s and 2s. Like, it's like, all right, cool, I get to fail at the thing I'm supposed to be good at. Great.
Yeah,
this is fun, we're having fun, but it's it's at the very least, you get through your turn quickly, and everybody else gets to have fun. Whatever. Like, don't make it. Don't drag out the bad feeling.
Sure.
Don't just kind of be like, dang it, and just move on.
Yeah. Here's what I do when I complain about stuff. I complain about it in character. Like,
sure.
I make jokes about it. I try to do it as lightheartedly as possible. I keep joking about how my character in Jay's campaign keeps almost dying. And, I've even had the character be terrified of things because she keeps almost dying. And, if you can, turn it into part of the character, and then you can have character growth and have your character eventually stop doing that. When it's in character, it's easier to separate yourself from it, and then you can move past it. Yeah. Whereas if you do internalize it, if you do keep complaining about it, if you make it a part of yourself, is what I mean by internalizing it, then it's going to be harder to stop doing it in the future, because you've gotten so used to doing it, and it's just part of how you act during the game,
Yeah. So. Yeah, your character in this has been like, it's such an interesting thing, because like you're the party tank, basically.
Yeah. So I'm supposed to take most of the damage.
Right. But that also brings up the whole idea that all party tanks are always almost dying all the time. Like that's the point. But it's like, what does that do to a character? Like
yeah.
And like that, what does that do to a person? And like that, in most cases, people are gonna be like, yeah, I'm the tank. I take the damage. I built myself to be indestructible. Therefore, I think I am, and it doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
Or I'm the hero. I'm just doing my duty, kind of a thing. But you're like, you've taken that character to be like, crap, I almost died. Oh man, do I really want to be doing this? Like, what the heck? Like, yeah, I'm the most suited for it, but so like it's been very interesting. So I like it. The next one is Sir not appearing in this RPG.
Yes. So that's a player that is always late. Maybe they don't show up one day, no call, no show. And then when they do show up, they need you to recap everything that's happened because they weren't there for any of it. And then they're going to forget it by next time because they're not going to show up next time, and then so on and so on.
Yeah.
Just the player that being at the game clearly is not a high priority for them.
Right.
I feel like this is one of those things that it might be the result of some other problem. Kind of similar to how like the player who's really absent-minded might have some issue with attention. Mm-hmm. They might have a lot of things going on in their life and they just can't make it to the game every time. If you're trying to run a game that is really dependent on all of the players being there, that's one thing. And in that case, maybe explain that to the player. Be like, no offense, I understand, but I really need everybody. I can really only keep this game going if all of the players are there as much as possible. And then the player will either make more of an effort to be there or bow out, So if that is the case, if it is that like you really need all the players to be there, that's one thing. If not, it can be kind of crummy to like always be like, oh, okay, well, I guess this character pops into existence and then, oh, they popped out of existence again. But I mean, that's not the end of the world. That's far from the worst problem you could have. If it means that you get to hang out with this friend of yours, even if it's only once in a while, it means you get to hang out with that friend of yours once in a while. Try to look at the good part of it rather than just the bad. I doubt it's just because this person's a loser. I doubt it's because this person is a bad friend. It's probably because they're working through some stuff or they are learning how to be an adult that has commitments with other people.
Sure.
Everybody has to learn at some point that they have to show up when they say they're going to show up, that they have to let people know when they're not going to show up. Everybody's going to go at it at their own unique pace. Try to be patient. If you just can't take it anymore, okay, fine. Tell that to them. This is one of those things that you just take them aside and be like, hey, I really need everybody to be there. So if you can't be there, maybe you can join us for the next campaign.
Like, yeah, because it could be any number of things that's keeping them. Because like, I will sometimes fall into this too. Like I'll be late or sometimes I just won't show up and that kind of thing. And like, it can be any number of reasons. Mm-hmm. But dealing with this, I would say like try to be like understanding of it, because like, you don't want them like, because sometimes it is like a guilt. It's sort of like a compounding of guilt where it's like, I'm guilty about showing up late last time. Yeah. And then in my guilt and anxiety, I end up being late again, or I just don't show up the next day because I feel bad I feel so bad for missing it last time that I miss it this time because I don't want to show my face, kind of a thing. Sure. So like, keep that in mind, because you don't want to drive somebody away because they were having a bad day one day and didn't show up to the session. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like, it's this is one of those things where like it might be tougher to deal with, because this could fall into the more like it's an out of game situation. It's much more personal kind of a thing. Yeah. So you do need to weigh the values of how much do you enjoy hanging out with them when they do show up. How big of a problem is it when they don't show up, and how does the rest of the group feel? Right. Or if you think that they like, because of the thing they're working through or the problems that they're having that are making them later not show up, you might think is actually more important than the game itself. You might be like, hey, like you don't have to, show up if you're dealing with stuff. Like, don't feel like you have to come in and play this game. Like if you're dealing with other things, go deal with that. And then if you're ever comfortable again to come back, there's always a seat for you, kind of a thing. Yeah. So, I remember I used to play with my friend Nick, and there would be times where like I would go over to Chris's house. Dang. And we would have plans to play D&D that night. And Nick would literally he would call like an hour after we were supposed to be together and be like, all right, I'm on my way. And he was coming from 2 hours away because he lived really far away. And so, yeah, we'd be like sitting around waiting for him 4 hours. But when he showed up, we would have a great time. And this was one of the few times that I would get to see him. Mm-hmm. So in the end, yeah, it's frustrating, but the good outweighs the bad. That may not be the case for everybody, but maybe it is. The next one we have is the Power Gamer / Munchkin / Min-Maxer. Some other Ooh, it me.
Some other things
Me
are
again.
I avoid any situation that doesn't allow for my limited skill set. D&D is about winning and players versus DM. This is another one of those things that like there's a huge gradient.
Right.
Some of it's a problem, some of it isn't.
Yeah. I would definitely call myself more of like a min-maxer power gamer, but like it's building the min-maxed character that is fun for me, like it's like I don't know. It's like a puzzle.
I feel like what you do isn't a problem because you are maximizing your character's strengths and even minimizing your character's weaknesses. However, it's not to the detriment of the game. When most people think of min-maxers or munchkins or whatever, they're thinking of like, okay, I've made it so that we can trivialize any encounter up to this difficulty, and then after that, I'm out. I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to stay home, guys. Sorry, you can deal with that yourselves.
Sure.
That sort of thing. Or like players versus DM, when they're doing this because they need to beat the DM.
Sure.
Like, we can't lose this fight because it's not about having fun. It's about us winning.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could go on the other side too with the DMs that try to kill their players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what the game is to them, I guess.
Yeah. It's about the motivation. That's the difference between you and a problem player of this variety is I would say that your motivation is benign. Your motivation is not bad in any way. I would even say it's beneficial in a lot of ways because it makes you do really cool things with your character. However, a lot of other players do it for what most of us would consider to be bad reasons. And so that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah. I feel like this ties into my relation to the complainer and the zero risk gamer as well, because like if I take the time to min-max my character and then I roll badly, it makes me that much more upset about it because it's like I took the time, I read all of these rules, became a rules lawyer, this is another one, so that I could build the character as best as possible to do the one thing I wanted it to be able to do, and then I roll low, I'm going to be mad about it.
Yeah.
So that's where the complaining comes out. And then also where like the zero risk stuff comes into play is like that is sort of a way of min-maxing, is because like it's like unless I'm pretty dang sure what I'm going to do is going to be the most beneficial, I probably should just, I don't know, take cover,
Sure.
So like those kind of tie in together.
Yeah. But yeah, again, like this is a gradient. Things on the lower end really aren't a problem. It's just when the player does it for a bad reason and that bad reason is disruptive to the game. That's when it becomes a problem. And in that case, this is probably one where like the addressing it immediately and moving on probably isn't an option, just because like how do you deal with this? Is like you can't say stop making your character that way and then move on. Like this is like something that they put a lot of work into and or the entire way that they play their character. Mm-hmm. So this might merit actually, sitting down and talking to the person more so than some of the other problems might.
Sure.
So yeah, talk to them and be like, what do you want out of this game? Do you just want to win, or are you trying to make a fun story? And then again, compare that to how the rest of the group feels. If maybe ask the rest of the group individually, what are your hopes for what this campaign is going to be? And if everybody's like, I really want to just be really cool in combat, then hey, min-max the heck out of it. Be a group of power gamers. Maybe even dip into murder hobos. Who knows? Yeah. Deal with that when you come to it, I guess.
Sure. So the next one is, Gabe. You know what I forgot to do?
What?
I forgot to learn any of the rules.
Yes. I've definitely played in groups where there's that one player who has been there for most, if not all, of the campaign and just doesn't know any of the rules. This might be some sort of, there might be a bigger reason for this. It might be some sort of an attention issue. It might be that they just don't have time to learn it or whatever. And they're just there really just to hang out with everybody.
Yeah.
It's possible. So don't write somebody off immediately. However, the ones that I've played with, I feel even just in the amount of time you were sitting at the table, you could have learned the rules far better than you have learned them so far. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to have to constantly explain, no, this is the D20. You roll that. No, and then you add something to it. What are you doing? Okay,
Right.
and you add where it says attack.
Yeah.
Okay, what is that result? And I feel, even as saying that, I feel like I'm being kind of condescending because, again, if it is some sort of an attention issue, if it is some sort of an issue that is beyond just laziness, then that's unfair.
Right.
And I don't want to be unfair to any player. So if I have done so, I apologize.
Yeah, because it could also be like they're not necessarily somebody who normally plays these kind of games. They might just be there because their friend wanted them to hang out with them.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
they're there to hang out with their friends, like you said. Like that's really their main goal. Is they're all of my friends are playing this game. I don't really like this. I'm not really into this game, but all my friends are into it, and I want to hang out with them. I'll sit down and play, I guess. Whatever. What is this? What this is a dice? What is this? What is this? This looks like a gobstopper. What is this?
There isn't one of these in Monopoly. What are you doing?
Yeah, what's going on here?
Yeah. So this is one of those ones that it's annoying, but I really don't necessarily think that it's problem player material unless it gets really bad and you know that it is just laziness or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
You can try to encourage the player to read the book, I guess, but you probably just got to deal with it.
Right. Or you might be able to make them like a cheat sheet or something.
Oh, there you go. That's actually a much better approach than just ignoring the problem.
There are some pretty good like reference guides out there, like some, like there's like I remember finding like a 5e reference guide that was actually pretty dang good. And it was like a nice little interactive website thing.
Sure.
Just something that they can easily reference when they're, it's like, okay, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to attack. And then they can kind of like do a quick little lookup about it. So yeah, this is something you can work through pretty easily.
Sure.
But yeah, it's I feel like this is a more short-lived problem, but if it's a long-term problem, then it is a problem player.
Yeah, it can be. I feel like most of the time it's probably just annoying. It's not necessarily a problem that needs to be fixed, unless it is.
Right. Yeah.
So our next one is I stir up interparty conflict. There you go. And that's, of course, that is the quote that got our podcast its name, because I met a guy many years ago and I was inviting him to play in our D&D game that we were starting up. And he warned me, fair enough, he warned me that was the type of player he is. But in a more general sense, this is the type of problem player that is just itching to attack another player. Whatever opportunity arises, they will try to provoke another player into attacking them or do something that makes it okay for them to engage in some PvP.
Right.
As with a couple of these, I admire their enthusiasm, but it is very misguided in almost every case.
Sure.
If you have had a talk during session 0, you should always do session 0. That will stamp this out for the most part. If in session 0, everybody is okay with player versus player interactions, we're with infighting, with arguing, whatever, as long as it is the characters fighting, the characters arguing, and not the players arguing or fighting, I say go for it. Go with whatever everybody's comfortable with. To me, it seems my knee-jerk reaction is to say that it is anathema to the game, but that's unfair. Because to some players, that is the fun of the game. As long as everyone is consenting in this combat or argument between characters. As long as everybody's consenting, it's fine. But I just don't like it. If it's ever put up to a vote, I'm going to vote no.
Sure.
So if somebody is attacking or even just being really argumentative with another player and it hasn't been consented to, or you didn't have a session 0 where everybody agreed to this, I would say this is an opportunity. Stop the game right there and then ask. If you didn't figure it out before, figure it out now. Be like, hang on, we never had to talk about this. Is everybody okay with PvP, or should we stop this right now? And then get everybody's input. I'm debating whether to have it be like a secret vote or just have everybody say at the table. If somebody doesn't like it, just say you don't like it. Maybe exclude them. The other party members can attack each other, but they can't attack this player or this whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because people don't necessarily want a confrontation with other people.
Yeah.
like even if it is through characters, it's not comfortable for them. So,
but I mean, like if theoretically, if the players are all perfectly fine with that, hey, have at it. Just maybe let the DM keep everything on track once in a while. Don't spend too much of the game focusing on that unless it is enhancing the narrative as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Next one is the sadist. Someone who is obsessed with descriptions of torture.
This is another one of those that, like, I've luckily never encountered a player like this myself. However, again, there are plenty of horror stories of people who they met someone at a convention or at a gaming store, and like every time a monster gets killed, the player just like insists on either describing or demands that the DM describe the pain and anguish that the NPC was. I keep saying like character or whatever, the pain or anguish that the monster was in, or the goblin or whatever, or like they want to torture them or dismember them, and they love the description of gore and so on. Theoretically, this isn't a red flag, but the player that's like really into that, it feels icky, probably for a reason.
Right. Yeah, the times that this is a problem, it's kind of like it's obviously an issue where it's like it's making other people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like in its worst version, it is up there with like the creeper one in a way.
It shares a lot of DNA with the horny creeper, no pun intended.
Right. So, I mean, like, that being said, though, like on the lighter side of it, on like the less problem side of it, like sometimes like realism is a good, storytelling tool, or it's a good flavor text kind of a thing. Like, there in a lot of media we all consume, there's plenty of violence and gore and stuff like that.
Sure.
But you gotta be careful with it though. You don't want to go too far, use it too much. But sometimes it does, like if you want something to be taken seriously, sometimes you have to make it like a little bit like, oh wow, okay, we did just kill this goblin that has a family, it depends on how far you want to drive that. But as far as the player being really detailed in their descriptions of death and dismemberment of monsters, they could. I feel like that could cross a line pretty quickly.
Sure. It kind of like with the horny creeper, whereas like the horny creeper, we kind of talked about like a player creeping on another player. A horny creeper can also be a player that creeps on NPCs and then wants the DM to describe sexual conquests that they have.
Sure,
and so on.
Yeah.
This one, I feel like the sadist is less in the descriptions I've read, because again, I've never encountered this personally. I feel like it's less about players being obsessed with torture of other players, and it is more focused on NPCs. But again, that doesn't mean it's okay. That doesn't make it less bad. Maybe it makes it a little bit less bad, but it's not. It's still bad. And if the DM is getting uncomfortable about this, it's definitely a problem. So like with this, I feel like you maybe should just stamp it out immediately and be like, I'm not running that kind of game. This, not necessarily that this is like a family friendly game or there's like a G-rated game, but you can say like, no, I don't want that level of detail in my game. And maybe even do the three strikes again. First time, say that, just cut it out and move on. Second time, talk to them out of game. Hey, I talked to you about this before. I really don't like all of these really nasty descriptions. And then if it happens again, it might be a sign of something else. Get them out of there.
Right. And like, I feel like this one, you'll less likely have to get to the third warning.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible that somebody's just like taking it too far and they find it entertaining.
Sure. And then our next one is the Grognard. I don't actually know if this is what the grognard means, but the way it was used in this discussion that I asked for examples, the example that they gave was the type of person that says, I've been playing the game for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. And what they are saying is that they know one way to do it, and everybody else who does it any other way is doing it wrong. I've played with that type of person, had an episode all about a DM who said that exact thing.
Yeah. I feel like this isn't they've been playing for 30 years. They've been playing it wrong, and they're just saying that the way that they've done it this whole time is right. I'm pretty sure in most cases when somebody says that thing, like says the phrase, I've been doing this for such and such, it just means they're not going to back down in what they're saying right now. Because like it doesn't mean that this is the way that they've always done it. This just means that they're a narcissist and they're just right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, there might be the case where somebody's just been playing it, like they've been playing a house rule for so long, they don't even realize it's a house rule anymore.
Yeah.
And like, maybe you can meet them in the middle on that in some cases.
Sure.
But I feel like the worst case of this is just an extreme narcissist who is just going to be right no matter what. And they're going to say anything to make themselves feel right, which is, I've been doing this for 30 years. Don't try to tell me that I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah. And there can be shades of other problem player examples in here. Like they can definitely be a rules lawyer. They can be, I didn't bother to learn the rules. Maybe they know the previous edition and they've just been coasting on that instead of learning the new edition. And so they keep messing up rules, confusing them with older edition rules. They can be the DM who can't stop trying to DM when they're a player. They were a DM for many years, and so now they're just going to keep acting that way, and so on and so on. So like this is kind of a culmination of a lot of problems. Like you were saying, it not to armchair psychologize.
Sure.
But this could be a symptom of narcissism or something like that.
Yeah.
So it can be a difficult thing. You gotta, I would say, stamp it out immediately and be like, this is the game I'm going to run. This is how I'm going to run it. And if they keep bringing it up, talk to them out of the game. And then if it keeps being a problem, I guess 3 strikes again for this one. But I feel like most of the time, especially if they probably want to keep playing. So they're probably going to play ball. I feel.
Yeah, I feel like it. Like in a lot of these cases, I think that's like people they showed up because they wanted to play. So if they got to play by your rules, I feel like more often than not they'll be like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
Next one is, it's what my character would do.
Yeah. Or alternately, my character wouldn't do that.
Right.
So yeah, it's someone that this can be like shades of metagaming. It can be shades of murder hobo. It's what my character would do is used for a lot of things to mean I want to do this and I'm going to justify it by saying it's what my character would do. If it is a problem that they just can't separate themselves from their character, if they are so dedicated to being in character that they can't justify doing something that might seem out of character, that's its own problem. I don't think that's what this is, though. To an extent, I would say in that case, hey, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but it's a little bit misguided. Really, this is for when someone they want to do a certain thing and they aren't going to let the game go a different way because they really want to do that thing. Either they want to just kill all the guards. Oh, it's what my character would do. Or they want to steal from the party. Oh, that's what my character would do. Or they want to be a jerk to the other players or characters. That's what my character would do. Alternately, my character wouldn't do that when, say, the DM is trying to usher the game along, or the player is under domination and they say, no, my character, he's not going to take that damage. My character isn't going to fail that save. My character isn't going to do what the dominator is making him do. My character wouldn't do that. Those are all problems, and it stems from something understandable. Well, sorry. These are actually 2 problems. Maybe I should have had the 2 separate problems, but 20 sounded better than 21. It's what my character would do is that player is just kind of being a jerk and they're justifying it in a way that is not accurate. that is something you kind of just need to stamp out or have there be consequences. Like I said, with the murder hobo thing, if it's what my character would do, okay, that's what town guard's going to do. That's what the rest of the party would do. The rest of the party would leave you behind because you stole from them, or the rest of the party would kill you in your sleep or something. I don't know. If there are consequences, suddenly, oh, well, I guess, my character wouldn't do that. Come to think of it, my character would play along. My character would whatever. And I've said in the past, you control the character. Your character does what you decide it does. Mm-hmm. You can say my character would be likely to do something, but people do out of character actions in real life all the time. Good people steal. Bad people help. It happens. Just because it's out of character doesn't mean they can't do it. It just says what they are likely to do.
Right.
If your character is unlikely to do that, it doesn't mean that they won't do it.
Right. I guess this is what I'm saying is like going to go closer into like the armchair psychiatrist thing.
Sure.
Is like they're saying that it's what my character would do, but it's really like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say that my character would do. This is what my character would do. And with them possibly knowing that nobody else at the table is going to do anything about it because it's not what like the other players wouldn't do these sort of things. Mm-hmm. Like, or they're not going to kill that player in their sleep. Like they're not going to kill that character in their sleep to stop them. Like,
hopefully they won't kill that player in their sleep.
Well, right. Yeah. They're probably not likely to stop them, cause it's like, it is sort of like one of those awkward, like social situations. So it's like, oh, all right, dude. Like,
yeah, cool. Most players are just going to go along with it.
Oh, like we're going to keep playing the game the way we want to play it. And I guess you're just going to keep doing it the way you're doing it. So like it almost feels like a dare at that point where it's like, yeah, like I dare you to stop me from doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's like, if it's not what your character would do, then that's because you're controlling your character. You made your character. You get to decide what your character would and wouldn't do.
Yeah. And then the alternate, which is feeling more and more like a completely different problem, the my character wouldn't do that, is kind of a narcissism thing, I feel. Again, not to armchair psychologize. But someone who they're so interested in what they want the story to be that they won't let something happen that is not what they think the story should be. If they get dominated or the DM tries to just momentarily step in and have their character do something to further the story or whatever, then they push back against it and say, no, my character wouldn't do that because I have an image in my head of what I want the story to be, and I'm not going to let you do that through my character. I'm going to keep pushing for my vision of the story to continue being what it is.
Yeah, the extreme case is, it's like, this is somebody who, like, they want to tell a story to an audience, but only doing part of the work because there's a DM setting up the scene. And it's like I want to tell my character's story, but the DM's going to do most of the work and you have to watch,
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So that sort of is falling into All About Me, the drama llama and such. Like, they're making the game about them and what they want to do rather than what the story or the DM wants to do with the story and the characters. Mm-hmm. And that's an easier thing to defend as the player. Like, it is hard for a DM to justify taking momentary control of a character. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but I'll just say it again. Players let DMs do that once in a while, and DMs don't overuse it, but do it when you have to. Yeah. So players just be game for whatever the DM wants to do. Play along, try not to make a big deal out of it. So if it's in the case of it's what my character would do, treat them like they're a murder hobo, have there be consequences. Okay. That's what the town guard would do. And then in the case of my character wouldn't do that, try to explain to the player what you are trying to do and then see if they'll come to your side, I guess. If a player doesn't want it to do it, try not to make just whatever. Fine. Whatever the player wants happens. Find some other way to get to the result that you want. The player only has control over their character. you have control over the whole world. So if a player is that resistant to it, just let them keep control. You can find another way, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Because the player only has the agency of their character. So let them have it as much as you can.
Yeah. I don't know if that conflicts with what I said about this in previous episodes, but
I don't know.
At the moment, that's what I feel is the best approach.
It's one of the things you should keep in mind.
Yeah. So the final one that I have is the Monty Python quoter. And that is a person who can't stay on topic for more than 5 minutes without talking about something out of game. Not specifically Monty Python quotes, but when we were growing up, at least, I feel like it was very common for pop culture quotes, particularly maybe Monty Python and the Holy Grail quotes, to find their way into the game. And then suddenly everybody's laughing. Nobody's thinking about the game anymore. And then, oh, whoops. Hey, let's get back to the game. And then, okay, you keep going. And then an unladen swallow or whatever. And then, suddenly everybody's laughing again. This kind of similar to the meme lord can be disruptive. However, they might just be like uncomfortable. They might be trying to become more comfortable with the game. And so the easiest way they found to do so is to crack jokes. They're to make everything a meme or say a quote that is tangentially related to what just happened. And so it can be annoying, but maybe put up with it for a little while. Give it a session. If after the session you feel like it was a problem, talk to them out of game. Don't bring it up at the table unless they just won't stop. Bring it up after the game. Talk to them privately. Be like, hey, can you try staying on topic a little bit more? We all love the quotes. Maybe get together sometime and watch Monty Python or something. I don't know.
Right.
Try not to view it as an immediate problem. Gloss over it until the end of the session and then talk to them. And if it continues, talk to them again, I guess. I can't ever see myself kicking someone out of a game for this. That would have to be a lot of Monty Python quotes for it to get that bad.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Oh no, they have an enchanter named Tim.
Of course.
Oh, jeez.
We had in one of the most recent episodes, we had a funeral pyre about that.
That's right.
So anyway, so those were the 20 examples that I had. I'm sure there are others. Some of those could probably have been lumped together, but I mean, it's hard to do that when everybody's going to have their different approach to problem players and so on.
Right.
But if you have any thoughts, feel free to leave them in the comments. Send us an email. We would love to hear about them. Hey, if you have any thoughts, record it and send it to us in audio, and we'll put it in our after party episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions, and this is a very long episode, so we'll try to blaze through this. Our last social media question was, gaming wise, what is something you are thankful for this year? Do you recall your answer, Jeff?
I guess it was the just being able to spend time and play games with you, Jay, and Steve.
Yeah. And what about Skeeve?
What about Skeeve?
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that too. We've been trying to get an online game of D&D going since before there were online games of D&D, and it's great that we finally are able to. It's really cool. Also, I think I said that I'm thankful for you, Jeff. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for this podcast, and I'm thankful for all of our listeners. All you guys out there have really been making this worthwhile, and I can't honestly say the show would have gone on as long as it did if we didn't have listeners like you keeping the show going and keeping the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So over on Facebook, we just got a couple. Kyle S. says, the D&D Beyond Encounter Builder and Combat Tracker have been a huge help for me as a fairly new DM. I started using them this year, and they really help keep combat flowing, and they let me be more engaging and descriptive. Yeah, that's really cool. Online resources are mwah. Sean M. says, a cohesive group. One of my gaming groups formed online early in COVID based on one friend from an in-person group I used to host and has been crucial to getting through COVID and as I moved from Ontario to New Brunswick. So yeah, a good group is definitely something to be thankful for. Mm-hmm. Jake F. says, being able to start game nights in person again. That is also awesome. I don't know if or when we will be able to have in-person games again. I'm not in a huge hurry because, we are able to do so much online. Mm-hmm. But it'd be cool to, once again, once in a while have an in-person group. When we did our Halloween actual play a few months ago, it's up on the Patreon right now. We did that in person. That was really cool. I got to see you, Jeff. Got to see Skylar and Peter as well.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of fun. It was a huge pain to edit. It would have been way easier if we had done it remote, but it was great to see you guys.
Yeah.
Over on Reddit, Alistar the Minotaur says, I'm thankful for my players. They're engaging, following the plot hooks I drop, and cry out in pain when I set up an entire dungeon just so I can drop a single pun. Weren't we talking about a type of problem player or something about a meme lord? Anyway, I'm truly lucky to currently have such an amazing group and have consistently been blessed with great groups throughout my tabletop career. And then Alistar says, John, Ange, Lex, Jeremy, Janine, Ken, and every other person I've gamed with, thank you. And hey, I'm Gabe. I'll second that. Thank you to all those people. And then Rocknathal says, I've been able to bring my fiance into the deep world of board games with Twilight Imperium and Arkham Horror. That's pretty cool. Board games are definitely a big thing now compared to what they used to be. So that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Over on Twitter, Darren W. uses HB to refer to something I think means homebrew, so I'm going to use homebrew. I apologize, Darren, if this is not what you mean. Darren says that I've had time to get down and create adventures for my homebrew without having to rush or go mental trying to sort out and being able to talk D&D with the wife and friends. So I think he's creating a homebrew campaign or something, and I think that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
And then that's Carl with a K says, to finally have a gaming group that I haven't had to cancel a session yet. Yet, in parentheses.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely cool too. And then there's a bunch on Discord. I'll probably just read a couple. See What Scribe says, I'm thankful for an amazing group of gaming friends that I've made in the past year. I moved across the nation in the middle of the pandemic and started fresh, knowing nobody other than my fiance and her family. Turns out that several of her friends are into D&D, as are a few people I met at work. Zoom made it possible for us to safely start together, and around April this past year, we all got vaxxed and can now play together in person. They've been great friends, role players, and communicative schedulers, for all of which I am deeply grateful. And then I'm just going to read one more. It's from Stiltskin Koopa 84. It's a big one. First, I'm grateful for the show. I think it's great that IPC lasted this long, and it's been no small task all these 5 years. So thank you, Gabe and Jeff, for that listening experience. Also, I'm grateful for the chance to participate in the InterPatron-Conflict game this past year. The fact that people keep wanting to see it move forward is a testament to how fun it was for a few of us and potentially more readers in a play-by-post context. So, Stilton Koopa 84 was one of the people that was trying to get the play-by-post started. Mm-hmm. He then went on to say, with this effort, I am learning how to actually play-by-post, which involves me having joined other servers to figure some stuff out about how play-by-post can be run in a modern Discord server with some cool bells and whistles. I'm also thankful to the Cerberus Academy teachers who have begun the process with me of building a server for helping teachers bring D&D into the classroom. I am likewise thankful for all the people involved in helping me build the international gaming and languages and foreigner servers for gaming across language barriers, because he was on our show a while back talking about he was getting like an international gaming group going up, you know. Mm-hmm. And then he says, I'm also thankful for all the connections I am making at Frogwarts Academy. It's so fun being around so many rookie gamers new to D&D and helping answer all of their questions for them. This year has been a very busy year for me. One not without game, but lighter than I prefer, what with work being grabby with my time. And this is Gabe here. I can agree because he is a coworker of mine. Work sucks right now. It'll hopefully be better very soon. But it feels like I have planted lots of seeds in this year that potentially may sprout into some awesome things going on. And it feels good having done all the work to lay the foundation for those projects and to be able to devote more time into helping them grow now that they are all set up. So, like I said, there were others, but this episode's going to be so long as it is, I think, over 2 hours when all is said and done. So, thank you everybody who wrote in. That was our last social media question. Our next social media question is, and I will repeat, this is going on the after party episode. So, listeners, if you have an answer to this, I encourage you to record it in audio format and email it to me at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. The question is, what was one of your favorite moments from the show? Jeff, do you have a favorite moment from the show? If not, you can think about it between now and when we get to the after party.
I'm not sure if it's my absolute favorite, but one of the ones I remember is Gabe,
Yeah.
hot dogs are not sandwiches.
No, they're salads, apparently.
Is that something I said?
That's
right.
something you said. I mean, there was a context to it, but
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It was like hot dogs. Hot dogs are closer to salads than they are sandwiches. Is that something I said?
or was it like closer to a casserole or something? There's something really weird. Anyway, in context, I'm sure it made sense.
I gotta go back and listen to that
Okay.
episode.
Dinner Party Conflict was bar none one of my favorite episodes of this entire show.
Right. Which is like, I don't know if that's bad or good because like it was our off topic April Fool's
Right.
joke episode.
I've loved all of our guest episodes. Every one of them has been so much fun. So much fun all around. It was great.
Yeah.
Picking one out is going to be difficult. I'm going to have to wait. I will have one by the after party episode, but for the time being, I'm just going to say all of our guest episodes. I'll just throw that out for now. I will narrow it down between now and when we cover this again.
Sure.
So again, listeners, if you have an answer, feel free to answer on social media. However, I would love, even if the sound quality is bad, I don't care. If you have a way to record your voice, which you probably, I'm going to go on a limb and say you probably do, record it, email it to us. We will put your voice in the podcast. You can be a small piece of what has made this podcast great. So please do so. If you can't, or you just don't want to, fine. No problem. Just respond on social media. Either way is fine, but it would be awesome if you did. So that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down. Let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us. Who have given their lives that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Arcanist Winterbrand via email, and I think this is like a pretty good stereotypical, not in the derogatory sense, but just like a stereotypical, just like a classic. Classic is the word I meant to use. This is a classic funeral pyre story, I think. So,
sure.
Arcanist Winterbrand says, I have only ever lost one character, and he was my very first one back in the days of 3.5. A group from my high school played a game at the local hobby store downtown. I was invited with no real grasp on what to do or even knowing the basics of character creation. The DM helped me put together Darius, the human rogue. I was dropped into the existing campaign as a prisoner inside a drow camp in the Underdark. My would-be saviors broke me out of my cell along with a few other detainees they were sent to rescue and had to carry me because of the wounds I had sustained from my capture. During the retreat, drow sharpshooters began assailing the party with arrows tipped with their famously deadly poison. The party's fighter, seeing Darius as expendable and not part of the team, used my body as a shield. 2 rounds later and a few good shots was all it took to succumb to my fate. So yeah, that hurts. Yeah. Hurts to the core of my being. Some players are, shall we say, problem players. I guess maybe that fighter was one. I don't know.
Oh no.
So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Darius, the human rogue, as we say. Maybe D&D is not for you. No, not that. As we say, better luck next time. Maybe your next character will be better.
Yeah.
Clink. All right. That'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, you don't really have time to, but you can shoot. Jeff, I'm gonna confess something. So I was psyching myself up to finally do this from memory today.
Oh no.
And I deviated ever so slightly and I completely lost my place.
Oh no, yeah.
Should I start over and do it from memory, or should I just read it like I always do? Because this is going to be the last time that I can do it, that I could do it from memory, because next episode is not going to be the same outro.
It's up to you. It's up to you. I don't know. Okay. I'm here for either.
Let me start this over. Okay. And maybe if this turns out really good, maybe I'll leave this part in. Okay. That'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com, although you don't really have time to do so. Where do I go after this?
Stop. Well, you
It's because I'm deviating. That's the problem.
You deviated.
Okay.
You had it. I felt you have it. You had it.
Here's what I'm going to do.
You lost it.
I'm just going to do it normal. I'm going to do it normally, and then I will record some sort of other thing to put in there later. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. That'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned in the show, and lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Check us out on social media. Join the discussion on social media. You can find us on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter @InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on the podcatcher of your choice. We're on iTunes. We're on Google Play Music, Spotify, YouTube, all sorts of stuff. Anywhere you find podcasts, please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. We only have a single dollar tier for this at the moment, but if you want to help support the show monetarily in keeping hosting fees in the future, you can go to patreon.com/interpartyconflict, and you'll get tons and tons of stuff, like hundreds of outtakes, dozens of bonus episodes, tons and tons of stuff. You can help keep us hosted for the foreseeable future and get a ton of cool stuff in return. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games.
There you go. Also, if you head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict, you have another avenue to tell us about your favorite memories of the show. And if you do, you will get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of the great people over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
Okay, we got a problem.
What's that?
The episode's over.
Oh, no. Kick it from the group.
Strike 3.
Okay, so I'm actually not going to re-record some of these. I can just cut something out from one of the times that I messed it up, and I can insert that in there.
Sure.
The question, though, is do I leave that entire thing in the episode, or is it an outtake?
Yeah, maybe it's an outtake.
And then do I leave this at the end after the outro music, or is this also an outtake?
Are we still in the outro?
That's the question. That's the question that listeners should always be asking themselves. Am I still in the outro?
Am I still in the outro? Is Jeff still trying to come up with the outro?
All right. That's
Schrodinger's our outro.
Okay. I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay, me too. All right, cool.